demonstrations and other forms of protest be put on hold till after the Christmas holidays and after these funerals, that in discussions with the five presidents of our various unions, they are also, if you will, standing down in respect for fallen members until after the funerals, and then we can then continue the dialogue that had begun about issues and differences that exist. So I want to thank them for that act on our murdered officers and their families, to ensure that we honor them in the way that the NYPD has traditionally always done for its fallen heroes. Almost 49 hours ago, 2 officers were murdered, and as I referenced at the beginning of my comments, the detectives of the NYPD have done an extraordinarily skillful job, as they always do, putting together the story of what led up to this murder, the seemingly senseless murder. And we're going to share again with you, as Chief Boyce did yesterday, some of the details of that investigation, and once again ask for your assistance. So Chief Boyce will be assisted by Pat Conroy, Chief Conroy, whose detectives have been leading that investigation. So Chief Bob, if you can come up, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just at this point like to thank not only Brooklyn detectives, but also members of the Special Investigations Unit and the Detective Bureau for assisting, and as well as our, the Intelligence Bureau has been helping us out quite a bit with outside agencies as well. We were in touch with FBI, ATF, and other police departments around the country to kind of tap down on this individual, where his whereabouts are, and what he's been doing the last couple of weeks. As I said yesterday, he had tried to commit suicide about a year ago. We got that from family members. We're still delving in on that. What we're seeing in a social media investigation, basically on Instagram, he put out 119 images on his Instagram account. A lot of these things are self-despair, but they're also anti-government. He goes in on November 25th of this year on an anti-government tirade, and he's called for a new challenge, BTF, which is Burn the Flag, in which he goes on quite extensively on his Instagram account about America and its inequities, quite a bit. He talks about Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin. As I said, we have recovered his cell phone from Baltimore, and there's over several thousand images on it, and we're tearing down on that as well. One of the cell phone images that we have is a video of Union Square Park, where he is a spectator watching one of the protests. We date that at around December 1st. Again, he's just a spectator, it seems, as people walking by, he's recording it on his cell phone. We found that down in Baltimore where he left it. A couple other things about him. His computer crime squad is also working very hard to kind of like come up with a profile or an image of this individual, and it's quite scary. He doesn't talk about guns a lot. We spoke with his ex-girlfriend, the lady he shot, and very courageous young woman. He put the gun to his own head when he broke into her apartment, and then she talked him out of that, and he later shot her before he left. So that's where we're going with that. She said she'd never seen him with a gun before that instance. So we're looking forward to identify that one piece of time where he was in Brooklyn, from about 12:07 hours to the time of occurrence, 14:47 hours. What you see over here is some images. We have a tape of Atlantic Center Mall where he is, where he's walking around. And if I can play that tape. We're asking the public's assistance if they've seen him, because right now we don't know where he was for 2 hours. And as you can see, he's walking around there. He has a bag in his hand. He's had that bag in his hand for most of the day. We have him with that bag over by the crime scene as well. We believe the gun was in that bag at that point. That's what we're thinking right now. It's a styrofoam container within that white bag, and that's what we're thinking right now. We pulled it out when he did the shooting. Again, public help for us. If we can identify where he was. That jacket is quite distinctive. The Indian sign on it, you'll see it, and he's wearing something, very distinctive shoes as well. We found another Instagram message from that morning, again, threatening to kill the police. So we have a very disturbed young man here. Pat, you just want to?
Yeah, I'll just, good afternoon. I'll reiterate what Chief Boyce has already said. We're seeking the community's assistance with this very important investigation. We've been able to establish the whereabouts of Ismail Brimsley from the early morning hours of Saturday the 20th, when he's in Maryland, through his travel up to New York, from Manhattan and indeed into Brooklyn. What we do have is a gap in his movements for about 2 hours and 30 minutes. Between 12 o'clock and 2:30 p.m. when we believe he's in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn, Fort Greene or Bed-Stuy. He's last seen in the Atlantic Terminal Mall at around 12 o'clock. We're seeking the public's assistance. If anyone has seen this individual Saturday the 20th between 12 o'clock and 2:30 p.m., we urge you to call our Crime Stoppers hotline, 1-800-577-TIPS. The male is a male, black, 6 foot 1 inches, approximately 235 pounds. He was wearing the clothing you see over here that Chief Boyce describes. Particularly, I'd like you to focus on that patch with the Indian arrowhead in red and white. Very distinctive. If anyone saw that male on Saturday the 20th during those hours in Bed-Stuy or Fort Greene, we urge you to call our Crime Stoppers hotline. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, people are stepping forward who do know him, who are painting the same picture where we already know that he's a very troubled man and that he was at rage with police officers. That seems to be the issue, anti-government, anti-police, and that's where we're going forward. So I would urge everybody with any information on this man to step forward now. Thank you.
Thank you. Investigation that we have conducted so far leads us to believe that he acted alone. Early on, there was concern that was he, in fact, a lone player. Nothing in the investigation up to this point would lead us to believe that he was anything but a solo operator, if you will. And we did enhance our security that had already been heightened over these last couple of months around terrorism issues in some of our station houses. And as we always do with our officers, ask them to continue their heightened sense of awareness, something that you want our officers to do at all times in any event. But at this time, it looks like that he did, in fact, operate alone. However, since the incident, we've received a number of what I would describe as copycat types of threats, and we have been investigating those, as you would expect, with incredible care. And as of this time, none of them have proven to be anything of significance. However, we always err on the side of caution, and we'll continue as these threats come in, copycat or otherwise, to focus on them and follow up on them. So with that, we are now available to questions for any of us here at the podium. Actually, let me ask Chief Boyce to speak to that. It is the idea of affirming that, in fact, he was a solo player, and just additional evidence that might be gathered. Did he have conversations with people that flesh out his motivation? What was going on in his mind in these last 2 hours of his life? That they've done a great job literally following him from Maryland up to the Atlantic Terminal, and then he dumps the phone and we lose him. Bob?
Well, the first part of it is we owe it to the family to find out what happened, and that's our main concern here, to the family. So I had to explain to his mother and father, Officer Ramos and his wife, as well as the Liu family. Very difficult to do. We owe it to them to find out exactly what happened. We're also looking for other witnesses to paint a better picture of this individual, to see if he told anybody beforehand. So that's why we're seeking to build this case up so we know going forward exactly who talked to this man and may have stopped him.
I just want to, let me just add first, the point that I think here that, again, the Commissioner said there have been copycat threats. Anything like that needs to be taken very seriously. I just want to emphasize, and the simplest thing any New Yorker can do is call 911. I want to make sure and I'm asking all of our colleagues in the media to please get this message out. If you hear someone make a physical threat against a police officer, if you see something on social media that is a threat against a police officer, call 911 immediately. We would much rather get too much information than too little. Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Mark, I think the point here is we're in a very difficult moment. Our focus has to be on these families, and we are in a season, again, that suggests we have to find a way forward. That it's supposed to be a time of peace. It's supposed to be a time of reconciliation. I have, throughout my public life, expressed tremendous respect for the NYPD. It's very well documented. I will continue to. I also think in a democracy that people express their desire for a more fair society, and that's right and proper as well, but they must do it peacefully. Can be no violence, and certainly can be no violence against those who protect us and who represent our society. The police are our protectors, and they must be respected as such. But I think the most important reflection, in answer to your question, most important reflection I can give you right now is, in this tragedy, maybe we find some way of moving forward, that it would be an appropriate way to honor these fallen officers and their families that are in pain right now, is somehow knit our city together, bring police and community closer together. I have always believed we could. There's never been a doubt in my mind that we are working towards a day when there's greater harmony between police and community. It is achievable. It must be achieved. And Commissioner Bratton, to his tremendous credit, has devoted his entire life to this mission. And I learn from him every day about how much perseverance it takes to get there. But we have to get everyone to move away from anger and hatred. If there are differences, we have to address them peacefully. We have to give people faith that their concerns can be heard peacefully across the spectrum. And we have to move forward. It's not going to be the kind of city it was meant to be if there's a division between our police and our community.
Mr. Mayor, there were text messages that were going around this weekend. We were told that they were community delegates to the DA. And in the text messages, it was said, no enforcement action in the form of arrests and or summonses is to be taken unless absolutely necessary. And if individuals...
Mary, I can stop you right there. Nobody has owned up to those messages. You find that delegate that basically was going to stand up and say that he sent that message. The men and women of this department have been, before and after this awful event, this awful tragedy, doing what we expect of them. They're New York City police officers sworn to protect and serve, and they are out doing just that. There has been no indication whatsoever of any stepping back from that responsibility. In this day and age of social media, anybody can put up any posting and claim to be from any organization. And so in terms of that issue, this department has and will continue to serve the residents of New York in a way that has allowed this city to become the safest large city in the country, but one that always, as in every city in America, where our officers are at risk of those, whether deranged or otherwise, who would seek to attack them. And we had the unfortunate attack certainly over the weekend. But that type of social media mongering, if you will, it has had no impact on the delivery of services by our cops. They are the best in the country, and they're continuing to serve. Thank you for the question.
Dave?
If we answer about this weekend specifically, then it should be rather obvious that what is your reaction, what was your family's reaction to what Pastor said? And also, what do you tell people who look at the tragedies of this weekend and the protests of the last 2 or 3 weeks and group everything together and say, you're either with us, the police, or you're against us?
Well, I think we have to transcend that. I really do. We have a deeply troubled career criminal, previously suicidal individual who did this heinous crime, who assassinated 2 police officers. It's a horrible thing, and I emphasize the one immediate lesson to learn from that is anytime we have any evidence, we as citizens need to step forward and act. We need to protect our police as they protect us. That's what we can learn from this troubled individual's horrible actions. But you have to separate the various things going on here. And in a democracy, it's our obligation to do so. It's our obligation to do so. We have people who are trying to work for a more fair society. Anyone who does that non-violently, I respect that. I respect our men and women in uniform. Those are not contradictory thoughts. In fact, the very question, I don't blame you for the question. I think you are reflecting what a lot of people are saying, but think about it. Does that suggest that therefore police and community can never come together, that there always has to be a wall between them? No, we can't allow that. We cannot allow that. We have to keep working for harmony between police and community and for understanding. So I believe we will transcend this. I believe we'll overcome this. Dave, go ahead. Dave?
I'm sorry, the first part of my question was what do you think what happened?
First of all, I think we need to honor the families by not getting into a back and forth. There'll be a time for me to talk about my own personal views. I will simply say I think what he said was a mistake and it was wrong. But I'm not going to elaborate because we need to focus on the families. We need to focus on healing. And I think that's what leaders do. I think leaders have to rise above the fray and the anger and the back and forth and take us somewhere. So I'm going to do everything I know how to do to help move us forward. Andrew? Andrew?
Given you said the one lesson we can take from this is that if you see something, you got to say something. Did Baltimore County officials do what they were supposed to do when they faxed a warning to the NYPD? Wasn't there supposed to be some kind of a interstate alert that can be shared instantly among police departments, and who's spoken to them?
Don't we wish the technology were like it's portrayed on television and in the movies? We are moving along fairly quickly, fortunately, and I'll ask Chief Boyce to speak to the particulars, which he did yesterday, about the controversy that some are trying to create between this department and Baltimore. There is no controversy. It's an awful tragedy that occurred, that one of the things that I think you're well aware of, that we're investing over $160 million in, money that the mayor and Cy Vance, our district attorney for Manhattan, have moved forward, is the equipping of all of our officers with smartphones and 6,000 of our police vehicles with tablets, that in a messaging system where we were going to receive a picture, we could instantly send that picture and information out to every cop on their post, no matter where they were. Even if that information had come in half hour before, most an officer sitting in a radio car would have received was an alert on the description of a black male, mid-20s, that basically was making threats against police officers. So that that issue, in terms of timeliness and the current state of the art, if you will, for advancing information between agencies, we're continually trying to find better ways to improve that. Now, let me ask Detective Chief Boyce to speak to the particulars of this case, because there has been some confusion on timelines, and I thought we had made it quite clear yesterday about that, but obviously some of you might not have been at that press event yesterday. Bob?
We investigated this fully yesterday. Baltimore County Police Department were made aware in around 1:30 in the afternoon of this threat on the Instagram account by the victim's, the ex-girlfriend's family. They immediately got the information, called the 7-0 precinct. 7-0 precinct officer did a great job. She immediately notified her sergeant. Her sergeant told her to call intercity correspondence, as is our operating procedure. All things were done exactly the way they're supposed to do. Within about 45 minutes later, we had a document to move on of this individual. 1 minute after that document was faxed, the double homicide occurred. So there was no lapse on anybody's part. They have been great partners to us in this investigation, the Baltimore City Police Department, Baltimore County Police Department.
Chief, while you're at the point, just on the video that you found on the cell phone, can you just sort of describe what it shows from his angle, sort of as a...
You're referring to the Union Square Park?
Yeah.
Just basically, he's standing there like anybody else, watching a picture of an event go by, a protest go by. He was not participating in it. He was just taking a picture of it. Sound as well, yes. Just the noise from the protest, that's it.
Speaking, if I may, as an aside on the technology issue, we're spending a huge sum of money over the next year on technology for this department. You're aware of a lot of it. We've talked about it. One of the systems that we're buying is called ShotSpotter, and that's an acoustic detection system where we are able to triangulate in areas where we have high rates of gunfire, the majority of which oftentimes is not even reported to us if there is no injury, that we're installing those devices now in certain precincts around the city. It is not up and operational yet, but in an ironic twist, one of the first systems that's been put in as part of this installation around the system caught the 4 shots that were fired on Saturday and mapped it exactly where the incident occurred. So again, technology is constantly evolving. This type of technology is going to be of great assistance to us in the future. The mayor has been a champion of it from the get-go when he was first introduced to it. Part of the reason we want this technology is that in an incident like occurred on Saturday, 2 officers down, not able to communicate radio for help, we would have, if this system had been fully operational, been able to start dispatching cars to this area because we had documented, even before 911 calls started coming in, that shots were fired at that location. So it's just, again, one of the ironies of the events of Saturday, that the technology that will, in fact, in the future help to save lives is in the process of now being installed.
Mayor, you referred to the protesters as people who are working to advance justice in society. The chants that we're hearing at the protests, NYPD, KKK. How do you spell racist? KKK. Would you be comfortable with your young adults in your household chanting like this at the protests, and we're hearing this at virtually every protest?
No, of course not.
What do you make of these specific, as well as the young students who are literally getting in the cops' faces and yelling at them, murder?
We've talked about this so many times, I'm going to talk about it again. And now the question is, what are you guys going to do? What are you guys going to do? Are you going to keep dividing us? I'm not talking about every single one of you, but let's get real. Just in that question, 25,000 people marched down one of our streets a few days back. Absolutely peaceful. No chants like that. Peacefully calling for what they believed in as American citizens, and the NYPD protected them. And I told people at the time, I've said it repeatedly, I got calls from all over this country with admiration for the NYPD, for the way it protected people's democratic rights. I heard from so many protesters who appreciated the NYPD. I heard from NYPD officers and leaders who said they saw peaceful protest, respectful protest. What you managed to do is pull up the few who do not represent the majority, who are saying unacceptable things, who shouldn't be saying those things. And some who actually physically attack police officers, which I've said is absolutely unacceptable. We will prosecute them to the fullest. Everyone must participate in finding those individuals, providing information to the police, intervening to stop them, alerting the police. I will keep saying this over and over. The question is, will you tell the world about it? Because you all are part of this too. So yes, there are some bad people who say inappropriate things. There are some people who say hateful things. They have no place in these protests. They are not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the vast majority of New Yorkers, like the vast majority of Americans who believe in peaceful democratic process. I don't care where they are in the political spectrum. The vast majority of our citizens are good and decent people who do not say negative things, racist things, nasty things to police, threatening things to police. The few who want conflict attempt that, and unfortunately so many times you guys enable that. I don't see reports on the many decent good people. I don't see reports on the everyday cops who do the exemplary thing and hold a line and show restraint and discipline no matter what invective is hurled at them. You know what? I am telling you over again. I am telling you over again, that's how you want to portray the world, but we know a different reality. There are some people who do that. It's wrong. It's wrong. They shouldn't do that. It's immoral. It's wrong. It's nasty. It's negative. They should not do that. But they, my friend, are not the majority. Stop portraying them as the majority.
Mayor, to follow up on this little dialogue, twice today you called on the demonstrators or the leaders to have a hiatus so that the families can go through the grieving process and they can bury their dead. Are you going to make any direct communications with the protest organizers to do exactly that, or ask them to do that?
Yes, absolutely. We've done that already, and we will continue to. Hold on one second. I'm sorry.
Forgive me if you've answered this, but are you planning to attend each funeral?
Absolutely.
And what would be your desire in that?
The same. Unfortunately, I've been to funerals for police officers, fire officers, sanitation officers. Will do the same thing and show respect for them and their family. Aaron?
Mayor, the Commissioner said this morning that some officers, not all, but some officers have watched safety as a leader. Do you agree with that? And even if it's unfair, what are you going to do to help? And he also said that what happened was, a direct outgrowth of some of these protests. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'll let him obviously define his own words. On the first question, I will keep reaching out to everyone who serves this city. They don't have to all agree with me. I remind you, at 35,000 people almost in uniform in the NYPD, I think they are, like every other part of our society, a group of people with a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different backgrounds. Said repeatedly, many journalists have said, do you think police officers think? And I always stop them and say, there are 35,000 individuals. They all have their own views, like every other individual in our society. So the way I would frame it is, I think some people feel one way, others feel another way, but to me, that's not what I need to pay attention to. I need to support them regardless of what they feel. And I have. The Commissioner will tell you about almost $400 million in additional investment we've put into the safety of our officers beyond that which was in the budget in June, the almost $400 million we have added since to protect our officers. Actions speak louder than words. So I will continue to support them. They have a right to their opinion 100%. I'll continue to support them.
Inasmuch as it's my comments you're referencing that, let me explain those comments. Do some officers not like this mayor? Guaranteed. Some officers not like me. Amazingly, some don't. I can't quite understand that, but some don't. Some of you have been around this town for a while. Can you point out to me one mayor that has not been battling with the police unions in the last 50 years? Name one. Name one. So the experience of this mayor, in terms of some cops not liking him, is nothing new. It's part of life. It's part of politics. And it is what it is. This is New York City. We voice our concerns and we voice our opinions. So what I'd suggest that, as I mentioned, in conversations with the heads of the 5 police unions, that the rhetoric that has been so much a part of the issues over these last several weeks, that we will engage in dialogue once we get our officers respectfully mourned and buried, and return to dialogue where we can hopefully resolve whatever differences are out there. But in terms of debate is healthy, discourse is healthy, that it's not impacting on the public safety of the city at this moment, that in the sense that we had an individual who we're trying to determine his actual motivation, who took the lives of our 2 officers and murdered them, cold-blooded. And we will attempt to determine that, so we learn from it, and as we go forward, maybe as we continue to analyze social media, and as we continue to educate the public about seeing something and saying something, we can prevent it from happening again. But the idea that...
I think by any objective measure, that's a fairly dramatic and instructive news conference that we've been watching there at what they call 1PP, One Police Plaza. That's the headquarters of the NYPD, where we have heard from a number of New York City public safety officials, among them the Commissioner of Police, Bill Bratton, and then also the Mayor, de Blasio, who on a number of different topics spoke, and sometimes really quite movingly. He called this whole thing, after having 2 NYPD officers shot and killed execution style out inside of their car in Bedford-Stuyvesant. He called this a painful journey. He said it is time for every New Yorker to think about these families to the exclusion of just about anything else right now. He said we must put aside protests and demonstrations until after their funerals. He called the assassination of these 2 officers an attack on all New Yorkers as well. Commissioner Bratton said that there have been at least 50 copycat calls in the days since Saturday when this happened in that Bedford-Stuyvesant street. He said all of them have turned out to have no credible backing to them. Then you heard the mayor in a fairly spirited exchange with a reporter there in New York who asked the mayor if he approved of some hateful remarks that were being made by some of the demonstrators. Some of the demonstrators. It was then Bill de Blasio who said a vast majority of the demonstrators in that town do not share those hateful